Fake natties have absolutely clouded the reality of what a drug-free physique looks like. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. And I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today, but a quick reminder, if you guys would please click like down below, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you aren't following or subscribed, please do so. And if you would drop me a comment down below the video, if you'd be so kind as to do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. So let's get over to the topic. I've seen a few people put up stuff, who are drug-free guys, who are just normal guys who get and train, and you'll see these. I trained 12 years, I trained 15 years or whatever, and they look like, fit, in shape guys who to me looks like a guy who works out, right? These are fit people who are in shape, and the internet then, you'll get hate from a bunch of people. They're like, oh, you wasted your time, and this person over here, look how they look, and they're natural, and it's like people have delusions. Absolute delusions, because they buy into these fake natties who lie to you for money. It's been a big deal. This is something that caused me a lot of problems early on, 12, 13 years ago. I made a big deal out of calling this stuff out. And it's in no way because I am anti-gear or don't think people should do with their bodies as they please. I think everyone, if it's an adult decision they need to make for themselves, an educated decision, and I think quite frankly, they're too regulated. I think they should be regulated about as much as alcohol. My opinion, says me. But by that same token, I don't appreciate people lying who are very clearly on gear. And, it's created an illusion of what's obtainable. What's obtainable, and the people say, well, maybe this one person, yeah, okay, so you have a 1 in a million statistic genetic outlier. That's really irrelevant. Like, nobody cares, and you shouldn't care. And in fact, it's actually not even beneficial to society in any way to treat them like they're natural. You know why? They have the genes, a rare set of 1 in a million or 1 in 10 million genes or 100 million genes to look like they might be on gear from training really hard when they're not. Okay? The world's actually probably better off if you just classify them as a fake natty. Plus, they have a gene to look like they're on drugs. All right, just saying. It might as well be for all purposes. People say, but it's not fair to that person. Well, who cares? I could argue it's not fair for a person to be born with 1 in 10 million genetics to give them a use advantage in life. I could argue that's not fair. But here's the issue. It really creates a problem if people then accept it. Oh, that's just normal. Well, it's not normal. It's freakish. But I digress. Back over to the point. And I think one of the big problems we have with that is fake natties putting out lazy garbage training advice who have good genetics use trend, and then people are not going to make gains following their nonsense. I mean, look at that whole UCETA guy who I called out for getting hurt and then just stopped training. His training is trash dumpster. No one will ever get big without drugs on that. And he obviously uses trend. But do you see the problem? He built a big following doing that, promoting a training style that if the rest of you did, you're never going to look like you lift ever. If you do his training style at the level of intensity and work that he promotes and does, you're going to spend 5 years doing it and never look like you lift if you don't use the drugs he used. You're just not. So back over to the point. Every time I bring up the fat-free mass index, people say, well, that's not realistic. That's not reality, because there's more people out there. But again, irrelevant. So when we talk about the fat-free mass index studies that were done by researchers, those studies were on national level natural bodybuilders. These were guys with pro cards in natural bodybuilding in that era who probably weren't on gear. If they were very conservative. They represented the pinnacle of natural, drug-free bodybuilders with great training who were winning and had pro cards and were going to nationals. And they found that none of them had a fat-free mass index over 25. So I don't care what anyone says about genetics or hard work. You're telling me that 25 years ago that the top natural bodybuilders in the world who were training their butts off, who had pro cards and were national level competitors and champions, that if none of those guys, when they were below 10% body fat, had a fat-free mass index of 25 plus, not one of them, you're telling me that all of a sudden it's going to be really common out of nowhere today? Telling me there wasn't a good enough gene pool, or that the best weren't training hard enough. Yeah, nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. Complete and utter rubbish. Those same studies determined the fat-free mass index of the average steroid user was 23.5. They sampled a bunch of steroid users, tested their body fat, weight, ran the stats. The average steroid user, 23.5 fat-free mass index. Well, how come these same people want to cite studies? Well, there's studies showing that you gain more muscle on drugs. Even if you don't lift than a person who works out, who's natural. We have some studies showing that. So if that's the case, then why do these guys only have a 23.5? That's not possible. Why would if gear lets you just get big without training, why are these guys still on average smaller than the best naturals, the very best? Well, because those very best were training really hard and had good genetics. I'll go so far as to say that close to 25 fat-free mass index limit is for the genetically gifted. And that's the thing where I point out, no, people have it wrong. They're misunderstanding those numbers. That limit came from studying the best. Granted, it was a smaller gene pool than you have today, but that was the elite. That was the people with good genes. You understand that? That was studying the genetically gifted who had been training hard for 10 years. And they're all coming back with a 24 and a half fat-free mass index as national level champions. That is your genetically gifted group. Normal people don't reach a 24 and a half. With drug-free, you're not going to do it. So that's the problem, is that people have been sold a false reality. Now it's all these people, well, okay, this guy's maybe a bit bigger than that by 10 pounds of muscle, 15 pounds of muscle, but he must have better genetics. Really, you found 57 of these guys already with 26 fat-free mass indexes, 27s, who all just happen to have way better genetics than the genetic elite from that last era, the best of the best of the best, the national level champions with pro cards. You just happen to have found 57 of them last week, or could it just be they're all lying? When again, the average steroid user, 23 and a half. Put that in context. When people start throwing around fat-free mass index numbers or you calculate them. No, a 25 isn't suspect. It's not oh man, he might be on gear. 25 fat-free mass index, if you're a gambling man, it would be a safe bet. Not a maybe, it's a almost certainly. 1,000,000 to 1. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.